I am speaking to Eva Thorne. She is the founder of Garden of Eva. It is a pickle company, but not like you know them. Think pickled watermelon rinds, think flavors of the South, think all these different interesting fusions of cultures and foods and spices coming into one. And all of it is linked by an incredible story across countries and across generations. When you listen to this episode, you can expect to get inspired. There'll be some laughs along the way too. And I know that this is an episode that is going to touch deep into your heart. I'll see you inside.
The Garden of Eva is bringing the authentic flavors of the American South, which is my family's heritage on my mom's side of the family, to tables in the UK and beyond. So I live in London and I've been here for 10 years and the UK has been very good to me. I think that the American South as a region has beautiful flavors, but I think it's important to step back and to say that it's part of a larger vision, which is about celebrating gorgeous, lesser known preserves from global Southern cultures. But I wanted to start with my own heritage because that's obviously how you establish your bona fides, your credibility, and your authenticity. And because I grew up preserving and pickling with my family, I thought it made sense to start there.
What was it like when you think back to childhood and what that experience was? Like, what kind of memories, sensations, smells even does it bring for you to think about that? Because we know food is so much more than just the flavor.
I'll tell you a memory that comes up all the time for me. It's the summertime and we've gone to a local farm on Long Island or upstate New York, and we've picked a bunch of fresh produce, including huge watermelons. You don't really see these kinds of watermelons in UK stores. And I can remember my mother tapping them. I can see her in my mind's eye tapping them to make sure she got the best ones, the sweetest ones. We'd get home, we'd cut them, and she would say, "Hurry up. We need to eat the watermelon because I want to save the rind." And she would disinfect the rind overnight in a solution of alum, which is not used anymore. And the next day we would peel the green hard part. We'd scrape off the parts on the other side that we had eaten from that she had sterilized. And we would pickle them in a warm spice infused brine. And that's a memory that's very, very strong in my mind. I think another memory is of the assembly line. So my mother would be sitting at the kitchen table with recipe books open in stacks with all the different things that we were going to preserve. My sister and I would be chopping and dicing, and my poor father would be shuttling back and forth because mommy ran out of sugar, or she needed more pectin, or she ran out of pickling spice. And then the whole kitchen would be suffused with the sense of vinegar and cinnamon, peaches and plums and whatever we were preserving that day. So you're correct. Food is really about memories and about sensations and scents and textures. And ultimately, for me, it's about love.
That's all of the emotions and kind of experience I got from you describing it. It's why it's interesting because you were saying how I wanted to start with what I know. They always say that, right? Write what you know and then go off. But that it's now you're looking at exposing even other cultures because we always find that connecting comes through food, love comes through food. And a lot of people's first introductions to different cultures and accepting them bigger than just what you see on the shelf. It's way more the story and the power behind it.
You're really tapping into the origins of how Garden of Eva came back, and you don't even realize this. I was living in Boston, and this is back in the spring of 2012. I had left my job as an academic, and I was doing some freelancing. And I remember distinctly being in the parking lot of the Pan Asian supermarket in my neighborhood, and I was waiting for it to open. I needed to buy unwaxed lemons because I wanted to make a tagine. And back then you couldn't get preserved lemons in the store on the shelf. And I remember sitting there thinking about the unwaxed lemons, and it's no exaggeration. It was literally like a bolt out of heaven. And my memories of traveling in Latin America, living in Brazil, spending a lot of time on the Atlantic coast of Central America, time in Europe, collided with this tagine and these preserved lemons. That collided with memories of making pickled pole beans in the kitchen. And that's where the idea came to me. And it was preserves and condiments from the global South. And then eventually started with flavors that I did from Virginia, which is, the American South, my family's heritage. But it really was about my love of foreign travel and my love of local food cultures. And that's exactly how it was born. It was that insight into other cultures that really made me excited.
What was it when you think back to like you had this idea and all of this is coming to you, like the travels, the flavors, everything is coming to you, and you're thinking, I can create this, I can recreate this in some ways for other people. How was it the first few iterations of creating it? Was it fairly seamless? Was it like, oh, I didn't expect this to happen? What were some of the things that you realized in that first sort of journey from, aha, I have this, I know what I want to do, the logistical, okay, let's create it?
It's literally a journey across 9 years and 3 continents. I started experimenting in my kitchen in Dorchester, Massachusetts in 2012. I didn't have the clarity around start with your own heritage. So I had made a couple of different jellies. I remember I made a roasted garlic white wine jelly. I'd become obsessed with that for some reason. And I had gone to the local forager. I'm not sure if Whole Foods calls them foragers anymore, but there was a local forager in the supermarket in Jamaica Plain, Whole Foods. She tasted 3 or 4 products that I made that weren't coherent in terms of the American Southern identity. And she said, these are really good. I'm willing to put them in the store, but you have to make them in a commercial kitchen. And this is before it became a thing to have these co-working commercial spaces. I was picking up the phone and calling restaurants and asking them if I could use their kitchen space. So as that was happening, I was running out of money and getting tired of being a consultant. And an amazing opportunity came to go off to Liberia, West Africa, and to become a governance advisor to the then president to do some reform. That was 2013 and 2014. The idea kept percolating in my head. I half explored the possibility of doing it in Liberia, but it didn't seem to be practical. And then you'll remember Ebola. So Ebola closed my son's school in 2014, and I ended up coming to London. I was working with the former UK Prime Minister, Tony Blair, and he had a position for me in his private sector consulting company in London. And to start a business in the UK, legally you're supposed to be a permanent resident. But I didn't let the dream die, so I was making things that I always preserved. So I was still making my pickled watermelon rind. I was still making chow chow. I was still making the things that I made growing up. But I started looking for opportunities to learn about entrepreneurship. And London has a great startup scene. So I can remember going to these really exciting boot camps for entrepreneurs. At a similar event, I met another woman who now has a brand called Cida's Kitchen. And I'll never forget that she was working full time and she was making, and I remember this distinctly, 500 jars of her sauces by herself every weekend.
Oh my gosh.
And I was really, really pumped up. It was rah, 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 go, Eva, go. But then it's like, what am I actually supposed to do practically? And so that's when the lockdown happened. So now we're fast forwarding. I'm still doing things, talking to branding companies, dreaming, fantasizing, looking at what's not on shelves, what's on shelves, sharpening the idea. And then by then I'd kind of honed in, start with your Southern heritage. And Mission Kitchen, which is a co-working space. I think it's around 100,000 square feet, and it's in the Battersea area in London, and it's for food and drink startups. They were launching a competitive lockdown incubator called Launch Your Food Hustle. I applied in the late summer of 2020. We were all locked in our houses, and it started in September. I got in. It ran to December, and it was life-changing because every week it was, here's what you need to know about business insurance. You need a kitchen management plan. You need to have a comprehensive process for writing down your recipes, writing down what worked. Was the texture right? Was the size right? Okay, do that. You need to have a social media plan for your website. What is your content going to be for the next month? Amazing 12-week incubator. I had my insurance provider. I had my recipes. I had figured out basics around a website, done testing around enough recipes that I had enough products to launch. I had all the practical elements. And that's how it started. So that by June and July of 2021, at Mission Kitchen, 2 to 4 days a week after working my regular job, making my pickles.
This story is so inspiring because I mean, I'm sure people tell you this a lot, but it's like you had the idea and then it was a case of timing, right? Like you had certain things came at certain times. You waited, you didn't give up, you continued to learn, you refined, and then you got to the point where the resources were there, the idea was refined, and you could put it out into the world.
That's exactly right. And I think it's really important to say, I wouldn't say that I actively tried to kill the idea, but there were times when it was very much in the background and I couldn't see a way of making it happen. I want to say this because I think it's critical. It's so hard to do this, and there are so many challenges. The highs are high and the lows are incredibly low, where I'm in the bed in the fetal position ready to quit. But I know this, I am not going to be 85 years old, sitting in a rocking chair, bitter because I didn't try or because I gave up too soon. And I say that all the time. Don't want to be left with shoulda, coulda, woulda, what if. I'm not going to go out like that. So I just kept at it.
And now it's kind of incredible to think about where it's at. Like, if anyone listening, you go to Garden of Eva, you check it out, the website, you're going to be blown away. Like,
Oh, it's very kind of you.
like it's so professional. It's so everything looks beautiful. I know you've gotten into some great stores as well. Like it's a big success story.
You've caught me at an interesting time because it's been such a hard time because I've had some challenges with manufacturing. One of my distributors went out of business and I'm owed money. I didn't find out from my distributor that she was going out of business. I found out from the buyer of a major store, and she emailed me. I emailed her to say, hey, I'm looking to launch this new product. Would you be interested? And she said, yes, what are you doing about distribution? You know that Company X has gone out of business. I didn't know. And when you're sitting there and you're sold out and your manufacturer hasn't delivered and your distributor is chasing you with purchase orders and you've got sold out on your website and you can't participate in exhibits and trade shows that you've been invited to because you have no stock, it gets really, really, really stressful. And I'm speaking faith and encouragement to myself, even as I'm sharing this story with you. It's like, I have to press through. I cannot give up. I would say I've come a mighty long way from when I started, and I have a mighty long way to go.
I really appreciate you sharing because no one knows what point we're at if we just see the outside. Like I said, I see your website, I see all this stuff. And I think too that entrepreneurship is this constant thing of really great green sprouts, like you said, coming from the garden. And then this, oh my God, everything's dying. Like, what am I going to do? It's a constant between the two. And really the only thing you can do is just kind of keep going. It means a lot for you to say that. I also think managing inventory is a whole nother level of complexity.
It's so hard because what happens is you're either making the products yourself because you're new and you're small, and that's how I started. But two things happened. One, I got plantar fasciitis in my foot because I was on my feet so much, and I had to take 2.5, 3 months off for physical therapy. And then I got a huge order of 1.3 metric tons of my relish called Chow Chow that Honest Burgers wanted for their gourmet burger chain. And that's when I was forced to look for a manufacturer. You're either making it yourself, or most manufacturers have a very large minimum order quantity, like 10,000 jars a week. And so I call it the missing middle, where you're starting to get traction and you're moving into the low thousands, and most manufacturers won't take you. So finding the one that's willing to work with you just as you're beginning to take off is really, really hard. So when something happens with your manufacturer, it can really knock the wind out of you.
This is where the messy middle is something that I don't think we talk a lot about in entrepreneurship because we're often talking about the beginning or finishing doing something different. For you, it's like figuring out how do I align what's available for me to do with the demand I need to have. And then for someone else listening who maybe has like a digital business, it's there's no help for me at this middle level. Like, I don't want to just learn the beginning anymore. I'm ready to move past these clients, but I don't have the knowledge or the strategy to go to the next one. And it is really hard because you have to find the right relationship. Completely see that. And I mean, it's even more so when you're dealing with something physical.
It is really challenging, and it is about being tenacious. And you learn as you go, and you don't necessarily realize in the moment how the bumps and the bruises and the scrapes and the dents actually help you when you meet moments of crisis. So I'm looking for another manufacturer, but now that I know the industry better, I understand better how to search.
If you don't think about the situation right now that you're resolving, what do you want to do with your Garden of Viva? Like, what do you want to do with it?
I get really excited because number one, gotten traction in another country. So I've been accepted into this wonderful European Union funded program called Waste to Plate, and it supports food and drink entrepreneurs, soup to nuts, that are making products with a sustainability angle. So if you remember what I said about my story with my mom saying, hurry up and eat the watermelon because I want the rind. When I started my product line, I knew that pickled watermelon rind would be the hero product because it doesn't exist in the UK for sale commercially, and it's utterly delicious with cheese. And so the hero was the rinds. I'd peel the watermelon, cut up the rind, and pickle it. And I'd end up with these huge bowls of watermelon pulp when I was at Mission Kitchen. And so when I started working with my manufacturer, it's like, we'll turn it into a chili watermelon jam. I didn't think about it this way, but my family was upcycling when I was a child before it was a thing. And so the future for me is, number one, embedding sustainability in as many products as I can. Number two, exploring how far I can go in these new markets where I've gotten some traction, which is incredibly exciting. And then the third thing that I would say is the vision for me is to start exploring decentralized production and looking to more fully embed the sustainability vision in what I'm doing. And I have an opportunity to work with a colleague, a friend of mine, on helping to create an environmental market in a West African country that has a big state that is interested in doing buying and selling of carbon credits, having them properly verified because there are challenges with it. And when I asked him about this project, he said the number one project that this place has is food waste. The food is coming in to this particular state, and because of logistics and transportation and other challenges, tons of it get wasted. And I looked and I saw all the produce that I need. I said, what if I take that perfectly good produce, I hire local women, I find an internationally certified food processing company, and I do that so that I'm lowering food waste, removing greenhouse gases from the environment, I'm creating employment, and then the waste would actually be fed into a waste to energy technology that they're looking at implementing in this particular country. So then you have double circularity because I'm offloading perfectly good produce before it's sent to the composting heat, and then what's left over is going to be turned into energy. And then there'll be an additional revenue stream because I would be a company that is generating carbon credits that carry money attached to them. I think that this is kind of the future when I think about where the food industry needs to go. And so I think that this is a way to solve a number of challenges, be true to my mission to make incredible food, but do it in a way that's making a positive contribution socially and environmentally. And it's also de-risking. So that's a big vision. I've looked at the top 20 crops that this country produces that I can access and the top 20 fruits and vegetables that the EU imports. And I'm aligning to look to see what are the products that I can make through Waste to Plate that I know are sustainable by definition. I can pilot and iterate them through the program, and then I would bring them into the EU on ships that are using sustainable fuel. So it feels like the different parts of my life. So I've worked in sub-Saharan Africa. I've worked in developing countries. I was a managing director and a partner at a sustainability management consulting firm. It feels like all of these strands of my life that have been important in my development can come together in a way that's coherent and integrated and is good for commerce and good for the planet and good for society. And that excites me.
This is all the data points coming together to create something totally interesting. And even in the midst of this crisis you're dealing with, it's almost like it opens up the horizons for something really incredible, what you're saying. Not just interesting, but also, like you said, this is the future. It's fascinating. Yeah, like I think I'm excited for you. Like I want to follow this blog about it. Like keep us updated on what's happening with this because it's so intriguing. And just on the demand side, because I'm in Lisbon, I'm in Europe, there is a huge shortage of exactly what you're producing. Like there's not that many flavorful condiments here. There is definitely a need for it.
You've put your finger on one of the key mega trends that we see all over the Western world is people are happy to eat their local foods, but they want to make them more exciting by adding something from a different food culture. Because as you said, food is about culture.
You're making me want to be an importer here.
Let's talk.
Like maybe I chose the wrong line of work. I think it's so exciting to do that. And the fact that you have such a unique background, this is something too that we often hear from different people, entrepreneurs, thought leaders that come on the show is that they come into something which is so uniquely them. It's not something that you would have been able to look at the market and say, let me create, because there is no one that has your exact match of skills, your experience, your travels. Like it would be impossible for someone else to create the same type of thing. But it's just interesting to remember that when people are struggling so much to try to follow the formula, the mold, the way it's supposed to be, quote unquote.
Sade, I cannot tell you how much what you're saying resonates with me and how powerful what you're saying is. I said to a fellow food founder friend, I said, it doesn't help to go on LinkedIn and see what other founders are doing. And I was joking with her. They have a brand. They're doing so well. They had their particular route. Now they're launching on Mars. They're doing a launch in Neptune. They're selling 50 billion units a minute. They're sold out every half second. They've got a $3 trillion valuation on their company. You cannot follow what someone else did. And I'll tell you something else, and I don't mean to sound weird or woo-woo about this, but I've come to believe this in my bones. I believe that every person on the face of the earth has something that only he or she is uniquely qualified for and called to do. And it's a question of if you're able to tune into that faint whisper, that vague, fuzzy, but comforting sense when you're doing something, or a jolt in your soul when you see a problem and you see an injustice and you get angry about it. These things are signals, I believe, telling us what we are supposed to do, that we are uniquely called to do. Many people figure it out and get it. Sadly, too many people don't. And I think you're right. It's only the unique combination of experiences and professional development and passions that have combined in the way they have to bring me to this place, to come up with this vision. Yeah, what you said is very powerful.
I hope too what you said really sits with anyone listening who feels like they don't have their path yet and they are trying to figure it out. That sometimes it just takes a little bit more time. Sometimes it takes some things going really badly and you have to reassess and stuff, but it always is there. Could speak to you for a lot longer, but I actually can't. I think the journey you're about to go on is so exciting. I think it's really intriguing what you're doing. It's so innovative. For people listening that want to follow your journey, see what you're doing, and also, of course, get Garden of Eva, find what they really like, try the product. Where can they do that? Where can they connect with you?
So the website is gardenofeva.co.uk, all lowercase. Of course, you can find our products at Selfridges in London, at Whole Foods on Kensington High Street, Laura's Larder, Megdon's, Deli.com, Loic's Deli, Lafinage, and a few other independents. And we've got some big things planned in the next quarter. So
thank you for listening to this episode. It is a incredibly inspiring one, whether you are new in business, starting a new business, feeling like you're failing in business. We have all been there. And just to hear someone talk about her journey, and please let us know what you found helpful in this episode. You can find me on Instagram, Sade Rael, or you can also let us know in the reviews. Let's honestly boost her up. If you like this episode and she got you thinking, let us know, because we want to continue to really pull forward all the creativity, all the amazingness, all the power of the female leaders and business owners that come on this show and in this community. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.